the first part of what you said, I wholeheartedly disagree with. I don't think that women celebrate men who work strenuous hours. I think that's men who encourage other men to do that. I think women appreciate a man that's successful because he's able to buy back his time. He's able to use his resources to make himself more available, or he has several streams of income that allow him to be more available, right?
That's
And
not most men, though.
no,
Most.
I understand that. I
Mhm.
understand, but typically what happens is we take.
This is one of the things I think, especially in the West and just in a capitalistic society, is that in general, we do prioritize our job, our money. We say we're doing it for family, but in essence, is not, I think it is ego at that point. Is the drive is the ego, because what begins to happen, what benefits the family the most is not the money, but is the time. But especially as men, and I think as a society, even as women, we celebrate men that are working so hard, doing all of these hours, and he gets to say, I'm willing to sacrifice my family for my family. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm willing to put in all of this time, all of this effort, all of this work to make all of this money, to have this legacy. And then, in essence, what the kids need are you, the time, and you can't get that back. And what you will find a lot of times is when you're, especially when you're younger and you're starting your family, you're going through the process of growing up, you're working, you're doing all of those things with your family. But then when you get older, you look back and you have so many regrets because your kids are no longer there. They're off with their own families and things like that. And you just wish you were able to get that time back, and you can't. And for me, just speaking from experience, with, now my kids are no longer in the house, and I'm like, oh, I miss them. I wish I could cook them a dinner. When they were here, it's just like, oh my God, I gotta cook again. Things like that. I couldn't appreciate it. But I think, and I had mentioned this before, that like last year my husband and I both had got COVID. And I thought we were going to die. We probably wasn't, but that was as close to death as I felt like it was. And just in that moment of thinking that something was going to happen to him, and he thinking something that was going to happen to me, that just looking at life, nothing else mattered. Before, it was like climbing a ladder. That was my priority. I kept going to school, getting these degrees, trying to make more money so we can do X, Y, and Z. And none at that time, none of that mattered. What I begin to think about is how regretful I was, because I sacrificed time with my kids and my husband in order to get these degrees, in order to make more money. And then it just didn't matter. Like the corporate ladder, I mean, I'm not in corporate, but the climbing the ladder didn't matter. The money didn't matter. It was just like, I just wish that I really had spent more time with my children, or I had more time left. And so I just wish that a lot of times we will learn that lesson earlier on, and invest our time with our family. I heard that in other countries, that they look at us crazy because of the amount of time that we spend away from our family and working, versus they prioritize family. So, not to say that they don't work, but it doesn't take as much priority. And I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to learn from that we invest in the family.
So, mistaken. I think the first part of what you said, I wholeheartedly disagree with. I don't think that women celebrate men who work strenuous hours. I think that's men who encourage other men to do that. I think Women appreciate a man that's successful because he's able to buy back his time. He's able to use his resources to make himself more available, or he has several streams of income that allow him to be more available, right?
That's
And
not most men, though.
no,
Most.
I understand that. I
Mhm.
understand, but typically what happens is we take the expectations of what we have and we put that on people who aren't necessarily there yet, right? So the guy who's working, you know, a job that it doesn't have a whole lot of income, who's putting in extra hours, other men will celebrate that because they see him as putting in that work to get that promotion, right? Whereas the woman is not necessarily celebrating that. I think that's encouragement from other men in terms of quote unquote chasing the bag. So I don't see women supporting that. I
You
see
don't
women.
think that we indirectly support it when we
No,
want
I think women support
we
it in
want
terms of
more
the end.
money? So
No, I think
when women are like saying, I oh, I want a house or I want this, so they may not directly be saying, I don't want you to put more hours in, but if he is going to be the type of man that try to provide for you the things that you want, that is going to come at a cost, and that cost many times is time.
no. So again, I think this is like to going back to the conversation about women initiating divorce. I think this is part of that disconnect. Women encourage the end result. They don't necessarily encourage all of the steps that it takes to get there, right? I think men look at that perspective very differently, and men understand that in order to give that woman that house, I got to put in these extra hours. I don't think women typically have the same compassion for that. Women want men to have this balance that may not necessarily exist in terms of that in between setting the goal and attaining the goal. And the other thing that I wanted to say, I think it's really easy to look at because I come from a culture, I'm East African originally. I come from a culture where um, the working hours are not a 9 to 5. They look very different to accommodate for a more balanced family life. You'll maybe work a 7 to 3, have between 3 to 7 as free time, and then you're working from 7 to 11. Some cultures call that a siesta, but there's a
Mhm.
break during daylight where people are able to take a break, to spend time with family, to share a meal. Society accommodates for that lifestyle. In the West, we don't have that. There's no system that's set up for society to function in a way to maintain a balance between working long hours, living the white picket fence dream, and still maintaining a real relationship with family. And so, yes, we can say we can look at those cultures and take something from them, but what does that look like in practice when their societies set up for that? There's systems in place. They're everything business wise and all functions around being able to balance your work and family.
Can I get you to explain that one more time? My math may be bad, but 7 to 3 and 9 to 5 are the same exact amount of hours, and an
She
hour lunch
said
break is
some
an
shift.
hour
No, no,
lunch
no.
break.
So,
Shift.
so what I'm saying is that the 9 to 5 isn't enough to actually live the kind of lifestyle a lot of people are trying to maintain. So typically, what'll happen if you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to have luxury items, if you're looking to put your children in Montessori or private schools, it requires additional hours past the 9 to 5. You're either going to work early or staying late or doing both, typically for your average North American, right? Now, that being said, a society that has more balance and family time still has those extended business hours. However, there is a break in the middle of the day that allows you to literally spend time with your family. That means businesses are closed. That means that schools have that same break as businesses where everybody can go share a meal at home, have a conversation about their day, and then go back to what it is that they're doing, right? There is that setup of, okay, everybody in society is taking a break at the exact same time so that we can build a community and then we all go back to work or go back to school or go back to whatever it is that our day looks like. The society's built up that way. Whereas
So you're saying that it's the same amount of hours, but like instead of going straight from 7 to 3, it might be from 7 to 11. Then they take the break, spend time with their family, and then come back and finish off the rest of those hours.
yeah,
Like I
so
live,
it looks differently in different countries, right? What it looks like in East Africa is different than what it looks like in Spain, for example, right?
Mm,
Like that idea of siesta looks different in different cultures, but they still have that break. They still
gotcha.
have that time
yeah,
for community.
I was in Syria, right? And the first day it freaked me out because I just started hearing the chanting. Like they was just chanting, and you know they stopped everything. You can't buy a drink, you can't buy a soda, you can't buy anything, and it's just common prayer hours. I thought something bad was gonna happen the first time I started hearing all the chanting. Like, but I dated a you Habesha or a Eritrean.
I'm Yemeni.
Oh, okay. She the girl I dated like that was from East Africa before. She valued that same thing. Like you had to eat dinner together every day. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
One thing I was just going to add is, and this could definitely go towards a conversation about just economic systems and things like that, that's always fascinating to me. But there's so many different variables at play here, and Tan said in the back chat, a very important word, which is priority. So I think with all of these work hours, and I don't think people are prioritizing, family when they're wanting the best car or something like that. Like, you're gonna have to work more if you want these things, which will take more, take time away from your family. Like, are you realizing that? Like, don't blame capitalism when you're making these decisions right now to, you know, have these nice things and the best new whatever updated tech versus, maybe saying, no, I'll wait a while, wear hand me downs, I don't know, and spend time with your family.
Mhm.